Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we're all sharing this journey of becoming attached to Krishna. According to the teachings of Srimad-Bhagavatam itself and Srila Prabhupada's explanations, this is the process for becoming attached to Krishna, to hear about Krishna. There's no more efficient, effective, quicker way than to just hear about Krishna. And the 10th canto is the Summum Bonum of hearing about Krishna. We've reached the 84th chapter of the 10th canto. The sages came to Kuruksetra to see Krishna, and they were completely bewildered when Krishna greeted them and started to glorify them, because they had come just to glorify Krishna. And how Krishna could act like this as a human being and glorifying them as the sages, which is what human beings do, sages, in such a clear, simple, profound way, completely bewildered them, they couldn't understand. But they took advantage after Krishna had done that to praise him. So we're just at the end of this section of this chapter. And hear more next of the resident Davan, and we got problems with our.
Doesn't sound right.
Huh? Doesn't sound right. Hare Krishna. Well, maybe it's because it's tucked under my chin too much. Is that better? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, we're having another technical difficulty. It's one thing after another, it seems like. But it's been fine the last few days. It's okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. Before we read this chapter, the rest of this chapter, we're going to hear Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Bhagavatam, which gives us clearer and clearer and deeper understanding of what we're doing. It's called the Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram, and we recite it every day. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdipi Yusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwandodita Ditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin, Madguro Man Mahadana, Man Nishtadaga Madbhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu Sadhuta Dayin, Atini Chochata Kada, Hanamuncha Kadachin Mam, Premna Rit Kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 84, text 27. The sages have just finished glorifying Sri Krishna. Shukadev Goswami said, having thus spoken, O wise king, the sages then took leave of Lord Dashara, Dhritarashtra, and Yudhishthira, and prepared to depart for their ashramas. 28. Seeing that they were about to leave, the renowned Vasudeva approached the sages. After bowing down to them and touching their feet, he spoke to them with carefully chosen words. Text 29. Sri Vasudeva said, obeisances to you, the residents of all the demigods. Please hear me, O sages. Kindly tell us how the reactions of one's work can be counteracted by further work. Purport. Here, Vasudeva addresses the sages as the residents of all the demigods. His statement is confirmed on the authoritative Shruti mantras. In the authoritative Shruti mantras, which declare, Yavatir Vai Devatasta Sarva Veda Vidi Brahmane Vasanti. Whatever demigods exist, all reside in a Brahmana who knows the Vedas. Text 30. Sri Narada Muni said, O Brahmanas, it is not so amazing that in his eagerness to know, Vasudeva has asked us about his ultimate benefit, for he considers Krishna a mere boy. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami relates Narada's thoughts. Sri Narada understood how Vasudeva, in the line with his mood of pretending to be an ordinary householder, asked the sages about karma yoga, although he had already attained spiritual goals even great yogis and rishis cannot achieve. But Narada was still concerned that Vasudeva might create an awkward mood by treating Lord Krishna as a mere child in the presence of all the sages. Narada and the other sages felt obliged to maintain their attitude of reverence toward Lord Krishna. So how could they ignore him and presume to answer Vasudeva themselves? To avoid this embarrassment, Narada took this opportunity to remind everyone present of Sri Krishna's absolute supremacy. Text 31. In this world, familiarity breeds contempt. For example, one who lives on the banks of the Ganges might travel to some other body of water to be purified. 32 and 33. The Supreme Lord's awareness is never disturbed by time, by the creation and destruction of the universe, by changes in its own qualities, or by anything else, whether self-caused or external. But although the consciousness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although the consciousness of the Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme One without a second, is never affected by material distress, by the reactions of material work, or by the constant flow of nature's modes, ordinary persons nonetheless think that the Lord is covered by his own creation of prana and other material elements, just as one may think that the sun is covered by clouds, snow, or an eclipse. Purport. Things of this world are inevitably destroyed by one means or another. Time itself causes the eventual decay of every created being. A fruit, for instance, may grow ripe, but then must either be rot or be eaten. Some things, like lightning, destroy themselves as soon as they are manifested, while others are destroyed suddenly by external agents, as a clay pot is by a hammer. Even in living bodies and other things whose existence continue for some time, there is a constant flux of various qualities that are destroyed and replaced by others. In contrast to all of this, the Supreme Personality of Godhead's awareness is never disrupted by anything. Only out of ignorance could one imagine him to be an ordinary human being, subject to material conditions. Mortal beings are covered by their entanglement in fruitive activities and their consequent happiness and distress. But the Supreme Lord cannot be covered by what are by what are in fact are his own expansions. Analogously, the immense sun is the source of the relative insignificant phenomena of clouds, snow, and eclipses, and so it cannot be covered by them. Although the ordinary observer may think that it is. Text 34. Shukadeva Goswami continued, the sages then spoke again, O king, addressing Vasudeva, while all the kings, along with Lord Achyuta and Lord Rama, listened. 35. Krishna likes to hear also. If it's good enough for Krishna, it should be good enough for us. The sages said, it has been definitely concluded that work is counteracted by further work when one executes Vedic sacrifices as a means of worshipping Vishnu, the Lord of all sacrifices, with sincere faith. 36. Learned authorities who see through the eye of Scripture have demonstrated that this is the easiest method of subduing the agitated mind and attaining liberation, and that it is a sacred duty which brings joy to the heart. 37. This is the most auspicious path for a religious householder of the twice-born orders, to selflessly worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with wealth honestly obtained. Purport. Both Sridhar Swami and Srila Jiva Goswami here agree that the ritual karma of Vedic sacrifices is particularly meant for attached householders. Those who are already renounced in Krishna consciousness, like Vasudeva himself, need only cultivate their faith in the Lord's devotees, his deity form, his name, the remnants of his food, and his teachings, as given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam. 38. An intelligent person should learn to renounce his desire for wealth by performing sacrifices and acts of charity. He should learn to renounce his desire for wife and children by experiencing family life. Well, that's the purpose of family life, is it? I see. And he should learn to renounce his desire for promotion to a higher planet in his next life, O saintly Vasudeva, by studying the effects of time. Self-controlled sages who have thus renounced their attachment to household life go to the forest to perform austerities. 39. Dear Prabhu, O member of the twice-born class, a member of the twice-born classes is born with three kinds of debts: those owed to the demigods, to the sages, and to his forefathers. If he leaves his body without first liquidating these debts by performing sacrifice, studying the scriptures, and begetting children, he will fall down into a hellish condition. Purport. Concerning the special obligations of a Brahmana, the Shruti states, Jayamano vai Brahmanas tribir rinavan, Jayate brahmacharyena rishibhyo yagyena devebhyak prajaya pitribhyaha. Whenever a Brahmana takes birth, 3 debts are born along with him. He can pay his debt to the sages by celibacy, his debt to the demigods by sacrifice, and his debt to his forefathers by begetting children. Text 40. But you, O magnanimous soul, are already free from 2 of your debts, those to the sages and the forefathers. Now absolve yourself of your debt to the demigods by executing Vedic sacrifices, and in this way free yourself completely of debt and renounce all material shelter. 41. O Vasudeva, without doubt, you must have previously worshipped Lord Hari, the master of all worlds. Both you and your wife must have perfectly worshipped him with supreme devotion, since he has accepted the role of your son. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti paraphrases the sage's mood as follows. We have answered you, who questioned us in the manner of ordinary discourse, in the same ordinary way. In truth, however, since you are the eternally liberated Father of the Supreme Lord, neither worldly customs nor the injunctions of Scripture have any authority over you. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, the very name Vasudev indicates that Vasudev manifests brilliantly Divyati, the super excellent wealth, Vasu, of pure devotional service. In the 11th canto, Narada will again meet with Vasudeva, and at that time remind him, Devarshi bhutapta nrinam pritrinam nakinkaro nayam rini charajan sarvatmana yak sharanam sharanyam kato mukundam parihrityakartum. O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even his forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who was surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. Bhagavatam 11.5, 41. Text 42. Shukadeva Goswami said, after hearing these statements of the sages, generous Vasudeva bowed his head to the ground and praising them, requested them to become his priests. In other words, what's happening here is that they're asking him to be the Yajamana, because all of these great personalities were there in Kuruksetra to perform sacrifice. And whenever there's a big sacrifice this being done, one person has to be the Yajamana. And that means the most qualified person present. So they're asking Vasudeva to be the Yajamana for the sacrifice that all these personalities have come together to do at Kuruksetra. Text 43. Thus requested by him, O king, the sages engaged the pious Vasudeva in performing fire sacrifices at that holy place of Kuruksetra, according to strict religious principles and with most excellent ritual arrangements. 44 and 45. When Maharaj Vasudeva was about to be initiated for the sacrifice, O king, the Vrishnis came to the initiation pavilion after bathing and putting on fine clothes and garlands of lotuses. The other kings also came, elaborately ornamented, as well as the as well as all their joyful queens, who wore jeweled lockets around their necks and were all clad in fine garments. The royal wives were anointed with sandalwood paste and carried auspicious items for the worship. 46. Mridangas, patahas, conch shells, bedis, anakas, and other instruments resounded. Male and female dancers danced, and sutas and magadas recited glorifications. Sweet-voiced Gandharvas sang. Sweet-voiced Gandharvis sang, accompanied by their husbands. 47. After Vasudev's eyes had been decorated with black cosmetic and his body smeared with fresh butter, the priests initiated him according to scriptural rules by sprinkling him and his 18 wives with sacred water. Encircled by his wives, he resembled the regal moon encircled by stars. Purport. Devaki was Vasudev's principal wife, but she had several co-wives, including her 6 sisters. This fact is recorded in 9th Canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, 9.4.21 to 23. Ahuka had 2 sons, named Devaka and Ugrasena. Devaka had 4 sons. Devakas Chograshenas cha, Chatvaro Devakatmajaha, Devavan Upadevas cha, Sudevo Devavardhana. Desham Swasasa Sarat Saptasan Drita Devadayo Nripa Chanti Devo Padeva cha Sri Deva Devavarkshita Sahadeva Devaki cha Vasudeva Uvahataha. Ahuka had 2 sons named Devaka and Ugrasena. Devaki had 4 sons named Devavan, Upadeva, Sudeva, and Devavardhana. And he also had 7 daughters named Shantideva, Upadeva, Srideva, Devavachita, Sahadeva, Devaki, and Dritadeva. Dritadeva was the eldest. Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, married all these sisters. Some of Vasudeva's other wives are mentioned a few verses later. Pauravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madira, Rochana, Ila, Devaki, Pramukaschasan, Patya Anakudundubehe. Devaki, Pauravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madira, Rochana, Ila, and others were all wives of Anakudundubi, Vasudeva. Among them all, Devaki was the chief. Bhagavatam 9, 24-45. Text 48. Vasudeva received initiation along with his wives, who wore silk saris and were adorned with bangles, necklaces, ankle bells, and earrings. With his body wrapped in a deer skin, Vasudeva shone splendidly. The Yajamana had to wear deer skin. 49. My dear Maharaj Parikshit, Vasudeva's priests and the officiating members of the assembly, dressed in silk dhotis and jeweled ornaments, looked so effulgent that they seemed to be standing in the sacrificial arena of Indra, the killer of Vritra. Text 50. At that time, Balarama and Krishna, the lords of all living entities, shone forth with great majesty in the company of their respective sons, wives, and other family members, who were expansions of their opulences. 51. Performing various kinds of Vedic sacrifice according to the proper regulations, Vasudeva worshipped the Lord of all sacrificial paraphernalia, mantras, and rituals. He executed both primary and secondary sacrifices, offering oblations to the sacred fire and carrying out other aspects of sacrificial worship. Purport. There are numerous kinds of Vedic fire sacrifice, each of which involves several elaborate rituals. The Brahmana portion of the Vedic Shruti specifies the complete step-by-step procedure of only a few prototype sacrifices, such as the Jyotishtama and Darsha Purnamasa. These are called the Prakrita, or original yagyas. The details of other yagyas must be extrapolated from the patterns of these Prakrita injunctions, according to the strict rules of the Mimamsa Shastra. Since other yagyas are thus known by derivation from the prototype sacrifices, they are called Vikrita, or changed. Text 52. Then at an appropriate time, and according to scripture, Vasudeva remunerated the priests by decorating them with precious ornaments, though they were already richly adorned, and offered them valuable gifts of cows, land, and marriageable girls. Text 53. After supervising the Patni, Samyaja, and Avibhrita rituals, the great Brahmana sages bathed in Lord Parashuram's lake with the sponsor of the sacrifice, Vasudeva, who led them. 54. His sacred bath complete, Vasudeva joined with his wives in giving the jewelry and clothes they had been wearing to the professional reciters. Vasudeva then put on new garments, after which he honored all classes of people by feeding everyone, even the dogs. 55 and 56. With opulent gifts, he honored his relatives, including all their wives and children, the royalty of the Vidarbha, Koshala, Kuru, Kashi, Kekaya, and Srinjaya kingdoms, the officiating members of the assembly, and also the priests, witnessing demigods, humans, spirits, forefathers, and charanas. Then, taking permission from Lord Krishna, the shelter of the goddess of fortune, the various guests departed as they all chanted the glories of Vasudeva's sacrifice. Text 57, 58. The Yadus were all embraced by their friends, close family members, and other relatives, including Dhritarashtra and his younger brother, Vidura, Pritha and her sons, Bhishma, Drona, the twins, Nakula and Sahadev, Narada and Vedavyas, the personality of Godhead, their hearts melting with affection. These and the other guests left for their kingdoms, their progress slowed by the pain of separation. Text 59. Nanda Maharaj showed his affection for his relatives, the Yadus, by remaining with them a little longer, together with his cowherds. During his stay, Krishna, Balaram, Ugrasena, and the others honored him with especially opulent worship. So this is the position of Nanda Maharaj. He's being worshipped by all these best of kings and all these great personalities. They all knew that he was the most elevated in love of Krishna. Text 60. Having so easily crossed over the vast ocean of his ambition, Vasudeva felt fully satisfied. In the company of his many well-wishers, he took Nanda by the hand and addressed him as follows. Text 61. Sri Vasudeva said, "My dear brother, God himself has tied the knot called affection, which tightly binds human beings together. It seems to me that even great heroes and mystics find it very difficult to free themselves from it." Purport. Heroic leaders of men try to transcend their petty attachments by force of will, while introspective yogis pursue knowledge for the same purpose. But the Lord's illusory energy, Maya, is much stronger than any conditioned soul. Only by taking shelter of Krishna, the Lord of Maya, can one become immune to her influence. Shall I repeat that? Any objection? No? Okay. Heroic leaders of men try to transcend their petty attachments by force of will, while introspective yogis pursue knowledge for the same purpose. But the Lord's illusory energy, Maya, is much stronger than any conditioned soul. Only by taking shelter of Krishna, the Lord of Maya, can one become immune to her influence. Text 62. I heard Prabhupada say this morning on a morning walk, he said, if you're not feeling gradually detached, then you're doing something wrong. You need to correct yourself in your practices or in your mind or something. You made some correction. Because he said, if you're actually doing the process according to Krishna's instructions, then you will become gradually free from the influence of Maya. That's called anartha-nivritti, the stage of anartha-nivritti. And when does the stage of anartha-nivritti come?
After bhajana kriya.
After initiation. And engaging in the process of devotional service, which is bhajana kriya, under the guidance of the spiritual master, and following his instructions strictly, without deviation. Then anartha-nivritti, then nishta. Then you don't worry so much about falling down after that. Indeed, the Supreme Lord must have created the bonds of affection, for such exalted saints as you have never stopped showing matchless friendship toward us ingrates, although it has never been properly reciprocated. This is called gratitude. The cornerstone of the house of bhakti. Text 63. Previously, dear brother, we did nothing to benefit you because we were unable to. Yet even now that you are present before us, our eyes are so blinded by the intoxication of material good fortune that we continue to ignore you. Purport. While living under the tyranny of Kamsa, Vasudeva was unable to do anything to help Nanda and his subjects defend themselves against the many demons sent from Mathura to kill Krishna and Balaram. Text 64. O respectful one, remember who's speaking? To who? Is speaking to Nanda. O most respectful one, may a person who wants the highest benefit in life never gain kingly opulence, for it leaves him blind to the needs of his own family and friends. Purport. It is, of course, out of his deep humility that Vasudeva is berating himself. But his condemnation of opulence is in general valid. Earlier in this canto, Narada Muni delivered a stinging criticism of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, two wealthy sons of Kuvera, the treasurer of heaven. Intoxicated by both pride and liquor, the two had failed to offer proper respects to Narada when he happened upon them as they sported naked in the Mandakini river with some young women. Seeing them in their shameful condition, Narada said, Na yanyo jushato rohyo shyam buddhi brangsho rajo gunaha Sri Madad Abhijatya dear Yatra Street Dutamas Vadabaha. Among all the attractions of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features. taking birth in an aristocratic family and being learned. When one is uneducated but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages his wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. Bhagavatam 10.10, 8. Text 65. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, his heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy. Vasudeva wept. His eyes brimmed with tears as he remembered the friendship Nanda had shown him. And on his part, Nanda was also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva. Thus, during the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce, I will be leaving later today, and I will be leaving tomorrow. But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 more months. Honored by all the Yadus. Purport. After settling that he would leave first thing in the morning, Nanda would then decide, I'll go later today. And then when the afternoon came, he would say, I'll just stay until tomorrow. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggests one possible reason for his procrastination. Nanda secretly intended to bring Krishna back with him to Braj, but did not want to break Vasudeva's heart. Thus his indecision continued for 3 months. And the others could do nothing about it. That's how deeply respectful they were of Nanda. They couldn't say or do anything. Text 67 and 68. Then, after Vasudeva, Ugrasena, Krishna, Uddhava, Balarama, and others had fulfilled his desires and presented him with precious ornaments, fine linen, and varieties of priceless household furnishings, Nanda Maharaj accepted all these gifts and took his leave. Seen off by all the Yadus, he departed with his family members and the residents of Braja. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, at the end of the 3 months, Maharaj Nanda approached Krishna and told him, My dear son, for 1 drop of perspiration from your divine face, I am ready to give up countless lives. Let us leave now for Braja. I cannot spend any more time here. Then he went to Vasudeva and told him, My dear friend, please send Krishna to Braja. And of King Ugrasena he requested, Please order my friend to do this. If you refuse, I will have to drown myself here in Lord Parashuram's lake. Just watch, if you do not believe me. We people of Braja came to this holy place not to gain some piety on the occasion of the solar eclipse, but to get Krishna back or die. Hearing these desperate words from Nanda, Vasudeva and the others tried to pacify him with valuable gifts. Well versed in the arts of diplomacy, Vasudeva consulted with his most trustworthy advisors and then satisfied Sri Nanda by telling him, My dearest friend, O King of Braja, it is of course true that none of you can live without Krishna. And how can we allow you to kill yourselves? Therefore, by all means, I must send Krishna back to Braja. I will do so right after we accompany him and his relatives and friends, among them many helpless women, back to Dwarka. Then the very next day, without trying to obstruct him in any way, I will let him leave for Braja at an auspicious time of the day. This I swear to you 1,000 times over. After all, how can we who came here with Krishna go home without him? This is a real tug of war of love going on. What will people say about us? You are a great scholar in all matters, so please forgive me for making this request of you. Next, Ugrasena addressed Nanda Maharaj. My dear Master of Braja, I bear witness to Vasudeva's statement and take this solemn vow. I will send Krishna back to Braja, even if I have to do so by force. Then Lord Krishna, joined by Uddhava and Balarama, spoke to Nanda in private. He said, "Dear father, if I go directly to Braja today, leaving aside all these Vrishnis, they will die from the pain of separation from me. Then many thousands of enemies, more powerful than even Keshi and Arishta, will come to annihilate all these kings. Since I am omniscient, I know what is inevitably going to happen to me. Listen, and I will describe it to you. After returning to Dwarka, I will receive an invitation from Yudhishthir and will go to Indraprastha to participate in his Rajasuya sacrifice. There I will kill Shushupal, after which I will again return to Dwarka and kill Shalva. Next I will travel to a place just south of Mathura to save you by killing Dantabhakra. I will then go back to Braja, see all my old friends, and again sit in your lap with great pleasure. Indeed, with great happiness, I will spend the rest of my life with you. God has written this fate on my forehead, and it has been written on your foreheads, that until the day I return, you must tolerate separation from me. Neither of our destinies can possibly be changed, so please find the courage to leave me here for now and go home to Braja. That's about as good as it gets. Hare Krishna. And if in the meantime, you, my dear parents, and you, my beloved friends, are distressed by the unavoidable fate written on our foreheads, then whenever you wish to feed me some delicacy or play some game with me or simply see me, just close your eyes, and I will appear before you to turn your torment into sky flowers and fulfill all your desires. I promise you this, and the young friends of mine whose lives I saved in a forest fire can vouch for it. Convinced by all these arguments that his son's happiness was of prime importance, Nanda accepted the gifts offered him and took his leave, accompanied by the Yadu's large army. Text 69. Unable to withdraw their minds from Lord Govinda's lotus feet, where they had surrendered them, Nanda and the cowherd men and women returned to Mathura. Text 70. Their relatives having thus departed, and seeing that the rainy season was approaching, the Vrishnis, whose only lord was Krishna, went back to Dwarka. They told the people of the city about the festive sacrifices performed by Vasudeva, Lord of the Yadus, and about everything else that had happened during their pilgrimage, especially how they had met with all their loved ones. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 84th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Sages' Teachings at Kuruksetra. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Nanda Maharaj, Jai Vasudeva, Jai all the Vrishnis, Jai all the Brajvasis, Lord Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, I'm not going to read anything tonight more than that. It's too relishable. We just have to let this relish it and sink in and marinate in our hearts. Steep like tea cooking in a pot. And I'll start us off with the reflections. I just can't help but think almost every page I read from this section of the Bhagavatam that my godbrothers finished that these purports are so extraordinarily beautiful, well written, deep, Siddhantic. And anybody who thinks, oh, Prabhupada didn't do it, therefore we should go back to the start when we get to this part, they're missing something marvelous. It means that there's some kind of, ritualistic approach to it. It's not fully, they're not fully grasping just how potent Prabhupada is. He empowered them to do this. Not anybody can do this. None of us could have done this unless we were empowered by Prabhupada. Not possible. Anyway, that's my starting off the reflections for today, for this afternoon. Okay, let's have the rest of our. Also, I have appointments tonight. I didn't know you were going to be here. Hare Krishna. You'll be here a few days, right? Anyway, I double booked Winston and Jair. They're supposed to come and see me at 6 o'clock. So I got to be done by that time. Okay, the mic is open. The ball is in your court. Yes, Prana.
Just one thought, because there was a lot of things in that section that we read tonight. But one thought was how in the spiritual world, love reigns supreme. That's what I was thinking, because at the very end there, it says how the Vrishnis spoke to everyone in Dwarka about their experiences, and especially how they met with all their loved ones. That's what it said, and I was actually expecting to hear especially how they met with the great sages and received transcendental knowledge or something, but that wasn't it. They met with the loved ones, which was the Vrajvasis and the Pandavas and so on.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking how that those relationships which materially will bind us, spiritually, that is actually the whole thing.
That's the verse. Isn't it a fact that what was that? There's a verse. Help me find it. It's vague. I know exactly what it is, but it's still vague. Does not a thing applied therapeutically that contaminates one liberate one if applied in the service of the Lord, or something like that?
Yeah, the Snarada Muni to Vyasadeva.
Yeah, it's like that. And I was thinking the same thing that you were thinking, but I was thinking that it was because they were family members and they were loved between them, but they were the most exalted persons, more exalted than this. In other words, their presence and their love, their affection eclipsed the knowledge of the sages, who were treating Krishna like, with awe and reverence. Therefore, it just waned into it's like the sun comes down and the stars immediately disappear. As soon as the sun even begins to come up, all the stars disappear from the sky, because they become eclipsed by the eclipsed by the sun, by the light of the sun. The light of the stars become insignificant. Or like the glowworms at night when the moon comes out, then finished.
Yeah, I thought it interesting how Narada Muni had to explain to the sages why Vasudeva was treating, because Vasudeva asked them this question, And I guess some of them were thinking, well, Krishna is really the supreme authority. How is he coming to us? He's got to go to the most senior one in the assembly. But that Narada Muni had to tell them, no, he considers Krishna his son. So this isn't an offense on his, but he kind of had to,
he had to accommodate that.
He had to accommodate it. Familiarity breeds contempt. So since he's his son, he's a little bit too familiar or something like that.
Yeah.
But then when the sages said that last verse, it seemed like they had understood, because they said, well, you're the father of Krishna, so, our answer to you is just kind of, it's an ordinary answer to your ordinary question, but actually you're the father of Krishna. So
the thing that came to my mind when you were speaking just now was Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya sent Nityananda back to Bengal and told him not to come to Jagannath Puri every year, like with all the Navadvipasis. And he said, they just consider me their little Nimai. They don't listen to me, but you can deliver them. You can deliver them. Yeah, this section is, I remember where I was, I think I was in Dallas when I read this last time. And I remember the thoughts I had and the things I said afterwards, somewhat similar, but very sweet. The love that Nanda Maharaj exhibited in front of all the other, relations of Krishna. Very sweet.
I like how it said, even when they were leaving, they could not withdraw their mind from the lotus feet of Govinda.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of far out because...
So sweet. And in the beginning, when it was talking about sacrifices, how you have to perform sacrifice, and they gave all the details of this and that and everything. And I was thinking, yeah, but, look at us. We can't. We're not even qualified to do anything in terms of, Vedic sacrifice and do the rituals perfectly. And if you make one mistake, the whole thing's ruined and all those things. And Lord Chaitanya came and said, "Yeah, you guys are not qualified to do anything. Just chant Hare Krishna, and you'll get the results of all of that and more." Just like Jai and Vijay, they took their third rebirths and they got eligible to go back to Goloka, but still they came back as Jagan Madai, and they got Krishna Prema, which means they got to go to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, which are going on simultaneously with Krishna. And if you want to, you can go both to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and Krishna's pastimes at the same time, if you want bad enough. These are the desires of the most elevated, confidential devotees. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. That way we can spend a little time with you before they come at 6. And Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vasudev ki jai, Nanda Maharaj ki jai, the Vrishnis ki jai, the Yadus ki jai, Vrajbasis ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Samabeda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Central Time, USA. Right here in the live studios of Radha Lane. Gaur Premanandi. See you then. Haribol.